Rise and shine, everybody. It's time to get the day started with the only morning show dedicated to the homestead community. Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome in, everybody. Good morning, good morning. I hope you all are staying warm. Today, it is colder than a banker's heart on foreclosure day at the Widows and Orphans Home. I tell you, it couldn't get, well, I ain't going to say it can't get colder, but man, is it cold. Now, I'll go ahead and disclaimer right now. This is a recorded show. I had to be at work before we could do the show, and it is showing 19 degrees at the time that this is going to be being played at 6. There for y'all. Uh, so anyway, yep, another one of those days where my schedule at work puts me going into work. I'll be driving to work, well, honestly, before it even goes live. But so this is recorded. Those who've joined in on chat or those who have comments, by all means, continue to chat, continue to make comments back and forth with each other and visit and leave comments behind. I will be missing y'all. I'll be thinking about it, but y'all will get to see my smiling face on this recording right here. So anyway, we're going to get right into it. Not a live chat today, but feel free to chat in the chat box. I just ain't going to be able to reply to you. My brother Keith might be in the chat with you. If so, he'll be showing up as the Farm2Table Direct Show. So anyway, hope you all are having a great morning already. Got your coffee in hand because it is time for the reality smackdown. That's right. We are going to get right into today's headlines, and I'm going to tell you what. If you are not sitting down, I suggest you do so now, or grab a hold of something so you don't fall on the ground because these headlines are hot, hot, hot. First up, are we really sending U.S. taxpayer money to the Taliban? Are you serious? Yes. Are we really sending U.S. taxpayer money to the Taliban? This is absolutely crazy. Let's check this out right here. Let's read up on this right here. All right, that was yesterday, published January 7th. Are we really sending U.S. taxpayer money to the Taliban? Elon Musk reacts to Congressman claims. Elon Musk set to leave the Dodge and Trump administration, whether the U.S. is really funding Taliban, as claimed by Congressman Burchett. Well, I'll tell you what, that thing's messing up. Congressman Tim Burchett later claimed that several U.S. entities through the State Department are funding Taliban regime in Afghanistan. Majority of payments have no record or trail. So anyway, that's going to be going through the a lot of that I've been reading up is going through the State Department through in the form of NGOs, non-governmental organizations that are connected to, have been founded for the Taliban, for Afghanistan, things like that. I mean, they've captured a bunch of money. We left equipment, we left money behind, and now, money is not being accounted for, or we're going over there. This is absolutely crazy. And if that don't get you hot, you're wet. Your wood is wet. That's all I got to say. If that don't make you hot, your wood is wet. Better go check yourself. Because I'm going to tell you, bad enough, all this stuff happened. We left all that money over there. Now we're just sending them more money. We're funding our enemies. Is that what we're doing in America these days? You decide. Anyway, now this one right here, absolutely the same thing. President Biden, outgoing President Biden, 12 more days, bans offshore drilling on his way out of office. You understand? And Trump pledges swift reversal of Biden's offshore drilling ban. President-elect wasted no time declaring his intentions to overturn the outgoing president's ban on offshore oil and gas. He announced earlier ban drilling eastern U.S., Atlantic coast, eastern Gulf of Mexico, Pacific coast along California, Oregon, Washington, and the remaining portion of the northern Bering Sea climate resilience area. Ooh, that's a whole lot. Basically, and then Trump comes out and says banning offshore drilling will not stand. He plans to revoke administration's order over $625 million from new development on day one. And anyway, so we're going to have a trial policy where no windmill. I'm going to get off on that. Rhetoric is bold. That's what I'll say. But anyway, could require one or two things. Now, this is where it gets tricky, folks. Trump faces legal and procedural hurdles. Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act gives presidents the authority to restrict offshore leasing, but reversing such a withdrawal could require one of two things. That is an act of Congress or a court battle. 2019 ruling reinforced permanence of presidential bans, complicating Trump's path forward. It's seen as a nod to environmental groups, but honestly, they talk about. I'm going to get off of this. Did I see that? Y'all weren't even seeing that. I hit the wrong thing. Yeah, I'm just like, man. Okay, here we go. There it is. There's the actual headline. You heard me reading it. Apologize for that. But anyway, hit the wrong button. Anyway, it's, you know, man, they talked about peaceful transition of power. That doesn't look like peaceful transition of power to me. That looks like you're setting the guy up. You're trying to make things incredibly difficult for him. Now, this last headline of the day is going to soothe things down, so you can, get some water, put your hair out. If it's on fire, if you're running around screaming, put your hair out. Okay, uh, this is going to help us. This is a good thing, I believe, uh, and that is the following right here: that Meta, i.e., Facebook and Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg, ends third-party fact checking. So let's see. Let's see what that says over here. There we go. All right. There we go. Meta ends fact-checking program as Zuckerberg vows to restore free expression on Facebook and Instagram. Meta's chief global affairs joined Fox for a Tuesday morning exclusive interview. Now, this was on Fox News Channel, so all things. Anyway, fact-checking program lifting restrictions on speech to restore free expression. So, said the current moderation practices have gone too far. We're getting back to our roots, reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the U.S. So there you go. It's a great opportunity to reset the balance. That's right. Listen, I don't know for y'all. For me, that's awesome because, that was a big thing on Facebook was, man, you couldn't put anything out that was contrary to the narrative. It was... you were going to get, Facebook jail, and everything else was going to happen. And so to get rid of that, awesome, thumbs up. That is absolutely a positive, good thing. So there's your headlines for today. That was your reality smackdown. Sending money to the Taliban, banning offshore drilling. But hey, Meta's ending fact checking. Sounds like a good deal. Those first two, I don't know if that, like I said, if that don't get you hot, your wood's wet. So anyway, now for this day in history, January the 8th, 1835, the U.S. national debt is $0 for the first and only time in history. 1835. You realize that we are almost, let's see, 19, 20, 30, we are 189 years, almost 190 years. 190 years. I'm just going to have to do the math. 190 years since we had a zero debt-free, zero national debt. That's crazy. And that was pre-Civil War, by the way, 1835. That's a long time ago. So that's nuts. Okay. 1918. This one's a funny one. I had to pick it. Mississippi becomes the first state to ratify the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, authorizing the prohibition of alcohol. So Mississippi, in my crooked letter I, humpback guy, was the first ones to ratify the 18th Amendment. That worked out real well, if I recall. Not. No. Again, one more of those government overreach things, which is what we're going to be talking about today here in just a minute, by the way. Should have hit that up in the very beginning. Let y'all know, tease that in. I'm 8 minutes, all this time in. Forgot to tell you what we were talking about today. But anyway, government overreach and bureaucratic failures in agriculture. Very important. But anyway, back to this day in history. Mississippi becomes first state to ratify the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, authorizing prohibition. Yeah, that got rescinded later. This thing didn't work out so well. Crime went up. I'm wondering, is raw milk, real milk, what you want to call it, what we call real milk, raw milk, is that the new prohibition? Are we going to be bootlegging milk? For thought there. Anyway, and then we're going to jump way forward. I didn't want to burn a lot of headlines, but I didn't want to bury off in them. Twitter, 2021, January 8, 2021, Twitter bans U.S. President Donald Trump permanently due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Now, if you buy that, I got some oceanfront property somewhere out there. I got a bridge I'll show you. Any number of things to go ahead and go with that. But now it's X. It's owned by Elon Musk. All that's been taken care of. Zuckerberg's coming around. Seems like things are looking up in the free speech department. Lord, I hope so. But if you missed our show last night on the Farm2Table Direct Show, something we called infodemic. In other words, they find out that you're going against the narrative. What powers do they have to stop you? Now that's just some of that, but that's what went down in history. And with that, we are going to jump right into the meat and potatoes of our show this morning. Government overreach, bureaucratic failures in agriculture. Man, if that ain't a hot topic, I don't know what is. Let me tell you right now. That's what happens when your notes get turned around. Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens when you mess with your stuff. All right, there we go. All right, I got it. Got it settled. Sorry, notes got a little squirrely over here. In the ever-changing landscape of American agriculture, farmers are no strangers to hard work. In recent decades, many find themselves battling not just unpredictable weather or market shifts, but an increasingly intrusive adversary called government overreach. At its core, government regulation is designed to protect resources, ensure safety, and maintain fairness. At its core, it was a really great idea. That's kind of what it gets to. Okay, agencies like the USDA, the FDA, and the EPA were founded with noble goals, and I agree with that. They had a good idea: safeguarding food supplies, protect the environment, support farmers. Sounds good on paper, but somewhere along the line, these missions became entangled in layers of bureaucracy and heavy-handed mandates that often miss their intended mark, and actually burden small and medium-sized farmers or homesteaders instead of empowering them. Right? It's doing exactly the opposite. The government's job, the federal government's job, promote the general welfare. In other words, try to make sure everybody has the best opportunities, the best foot forward, not get in their way and trample. But let's take, for example, the EPA's enforcement of the Clean Water Act. While protecting water sources is vital, I will agree with that because there, things getting dumped in rivers and things like that, lakes, that's a bad thing, right? But the interpretation of navigable waters has expanded to include even small temporary puddles on farmland. Farmers who once managed their own land without interference can now face fines and litigation over perceived violations. The result? Hesitation, reduced productivity, crippling legal expenses. Not exactly the thriving agricultural environment these policies were meant to foster. Now, for those of you out there who may have dealt with the bureaucracies, dealt with the government headaches and all the inspections and had to pay that stuff, you know exactly what we're talking about here. You've dealt with it. If you can't function because the cost, and we're going to get into a minute story, and I'm going to share some other things. I just want to get through this, kind of this opening narrative here, and we're going to break into some of this stuff. Right now, USDA, very important in homesteading, farming. U.S. Department of Agriculture. Been a lot of talk about the new incoming administration with the HHS and USDA and FDA and all the three-letter agencies of what's going to happen. But they have a loan and subsidy program aimed at supporting farmers during a crisis or natural disaster. But it's repeatedly failed those they claim to help. And we've had reports of delays in loan processing during times of urgent need, leaving farmers unable to buy seed or repair equipment in time for plan. Failures disproportionately affect smaller operations, which lack the financial buffer that larger corporations rely on. So what I'm saying is, it takes away the small farmer just doesn't have the funding that the big farmer has. And now with the Farm Bill, they kick the can down the road another year. Go figure. It's Congress kicking the can. Imagine that. But anyway, consider the fallout during the pandemic of 2021. Billions were earmarked to help agriculture producers, but bureaucratic missteps left small farmers scrambling, while larger operations, better access to legal and financial counsel, absorbed most of the benefits. When they're distributed unevenly, it's not just the farmers who suffer, their communities, consumers, and the nation's food security feel the strain. So that's just an example there in food, which is what we're all about here is food security. Now, FDA's regulatory standard for food labeling, it's a disconnect between the bureaucrats and the people on the ground. because farmers, producers adapting to new labeling requirements means more money being spent. The packaging, the compliance, what's on the label. And guess what? For all the talk of transparency and consumer rights, the true cost is passed down to the end user through high prices, and local farms face foreclosure because they just can't compete. They can't keep up financially. That's where farmers markets, farm hubs, farm direct stores, farm stores from the farm itself, and us as the consumers supporting the local economy and the local farmers matter so much. The failure of bureaucratic agencies lies not just in their inefficiency, but in their lack of consideration for real world implications of their policies. Here's the deal. It's a machine to them. We're a machine to them. It's black and white. Most of those regulators, I've said it before, most of those people up there, they're just doing a job. They're getting their government check. They're getting their government benefits. They're doing a job. Okay. Some of them ain't ever raised a crop, planted a plant, raised a chicken, done nothing. But they're enforcing regulations. And when a bureaucracy gets so big that it just serves to itself, it just serves to feed itself, to create its own existence and why it exists. And we've talked about, Joel Salatin's talked about a lot with what RFK Jr. said about agency capture. And what agency capture basically boils down to is business owners and, the big corporates and lobbyists, whatever, getting their people in charge of these agencies so that then regulations are then passed that are favorable to those organizations and not to the everyday farmer, the everyday citizen that it was actually designed for. Now, so instead of empowering agriculture, they actually add some insurmountable hurdles that benefit large corporations, leaving small farmers to sink under the weight of compliance and red tape. Consequences are clear. Small farms are being forced out of business at alarming rates, and that's a fact. If this trend continues, the nation risks a less diverse and resilient food supply. Monopolies can grow stronger, leading to higher food prices for consumers, less sustainable practices overall. And that, I believe, is the truth. If everything benefits the big corporations and squashes the little guy, then who else is giving the food but the big guys, the commercial guys, right? We need to support our local farmers. We need to support local producers. Best way to do that, get involved, be out there. But where does this leave us? The path forward must focus on reform, decentralization, prioritizing those who are closest to the land, the farmers themselves. Policies should be crafted from input from local agricultural communities, allowing for flexible, region-specific solutions instead of one-size-fits-all mandates, which is what the government bureaucracy is good at. That's all they're good at, is generating more and more, and they don't consider what the actual results are going to be. It looks good on paper, therefore it's good. Okay. Regulation shouldn't mean oppression. It should mean partnership and empowerment, and that's a fact. When regulations, becomes a burden, it becomes cumbersome. That's why we can't get new farmers. People are leaving. There's no money in it. New farmers. Costs too much to buy land. Costs too much to get into this. But the small-scale farm, the homesteader, the small-scale farmer, the small producer, that's achievable. But we have to do business with them. We have to support them. Read this the other day that when you buy through the supply chain and you buy through the stores, about 6 to 9 cents, depending on which commodity it is, what it is, goes to the farmer or the rancher or the producer's pocket. But when you buy directly from them, about 85 to 90% goes to the farmer because their expenses and their taxes, whatever, but everything's covered. So if you really want to help, put your money in a local. Buy from these local people. Support your local community. You're not just supporting a family. You could be supporting the whole community. Farm hubs, farm stores, farmers direct stores where they bring them in. A farm hub is like a farm hub. Farmers markets, finding local producers, finding people in your neighborhood. Support with your friends. Get involved that way. Okay. The story of American agriculture is of resilience, innovation, and community. For it to continue, bureaucratic agencies must reconnect with their foundational purposes. And until that happens, the question remains, how many small farms will be forced to surrender, not to nature's challenges, but to the weight of government overreach? It's time to ensure our policies and agencies serve those who grow our food and not stifle them. All right. We've got to get that reform. Now listen, Joel Salatin put this in his blog the other day, and he's 100% right. We're going to get a new Secretary of USDA, Secretary of FDA, all those things. But down the road, down underneath them, what's really going to change? how much is actually going to change? How many people are, what's really going to happen? We need to temper our expectations with this incoming administration when it comes to that. As much as I'm optimistic and hopeful, I still think we need to be real deal. Okay, we need to be the real deal. We need to pay close attention to it, but get involved, because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. Regulations on the local level, affecting your state legislature. Me, Keith, and I are involved with some local stuff. Comes to raw milk sales. I'm monitoring some stuff in Oklahoma and Arkansas and around the country. Get involved. Find out what's going on. Be a voice. Be a voice for change. There's strength in numbers. Okay, that's ultimately at the ultimate day. One or two guys aren't going to make a lot of noise. A whole community, the homestead community, the farming community, the ranching community together can make a big impact on your local legislators and your local government and your local and state government. That's where you can affect the most direct change. Contact your senators, contact your representatives. Okay, let them know where you stand. Get your voice heard. I know it's a lot to ask. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and boo-hoo and complain. I'm guilty of it just like everybody else is, but we've got to get involved, and that's the challenge. Okay. Now I'm going to share something with you, and it's about this very thing. Okay. Now this was from, grab the wrong notes. Thing is, it's probably when you got too many notes. I was doing stuff for two different shows. Let's see. Where did we go with it? I don't know. I'm going to have to pause with me for just a second. I was throwing notes earlier, and man, did I get a bunch of stuff. That's raw farm. That's show segment. That's 7. Nope. That's all them. Okay. Y'all get to see what happens. Okay. Here we go. All right. Now, this is an article that was back in March of 2024 from Cultivate Newsletter. Okay. And it's about what happens when you don't back down. But it's also about this very thing about government overreach. Okay. And agencies extended beyond what they're capable. Oregon's government and dairy industry joined forces against small farmers. That was National Review, March 17th. 5 days later, Oregon reverses new policy requiring a permit to milk one cow or goat. There was a permit, supposed to be a permit to milk a goat or a cow. Now, I know Oregon's a little bit, they're the neighbor of the north of California. And I don't, a lot of good people out there. So if you're from Oregon, it's not against you. But if you're part of those people, they're just overran by, I don't know. Overreach is a very embodiment of it, just like the federal. Okay. This woman named Sarah King was put on notice by the Oregon Department of Agriculture. Sarah has three dairy cows, and they live on a farm at Godspeed Hollow Farm, spending almost all days outside on rich pasture. Sounds good to me so far. Oregon springs, wet, cold. Sarah brings her cows into the barn each day for a few minutes of milking, then turns them back onto her 11-acre pasture. Strains the milk, refrigerates it for her customers, cleans up. Sounds good, right? For 7 years, all was well. Then the ODA showed up, came knocking, and ta-da, told Sarah that her little raw milk microdairy was now a confined animal feeding operation, or CAFO, whatever. What they did was write a white paper in January 23, redefining the term CAFO. Now that goes to something that Joel South talked about. Regulation didn't change, they just changed their interpretation of it. So no longer did you need to have 100 or 1,000 animals to be a confined operation. No, according to the Oregon Department of Agriculture, all you had to do is confine your animal. It's just confine. In Sarah's case, by bringing them indoors for a few minutes of daily milking, and in a kind of legal jujitsu, the ODA justified this by all animals are technically confined during the milking process, whether in pens, lots, or buildings. Suddenly, tiny raw dairies across Oregon were CAFOs, thus required to meet the same environmental compliance standards as farms with hundreds or even thousands of cows. Guess what? That means they can't afford it. They can't keep up with the cost. All right. The compliance, it turns out, is expensive. it was potentially going to cost this woman, Sarah, upwards of $150,000 in drainage, milk separator, water holders, and all that stuff. It's crazy. $150,000 for 3 cows. She sued, like she should have. Anyway, they rescinded the April 1st deadline. That's a good thing. Give time to take action. But now listen, this isn't about the ability to provide raw milk, although that's so huge. It's not about big dairy or big anybody cozying up to the government to bully the little guys, although it's definitely about that. As you'll see, it could be a precedent for us. I mean, this is a story. It's been put on. But if Oregon wins, then other states might follow through with nickel and diming raw milk. Uh, and yes, me and my brother have been talking a lot because it's hot. Raw milk produced out of business. It affects you even if you don't raw milk because here's some possibilities. And this is where it really gets more. Pay close attention. I'm getting up on the clock, but I want to finish this up. Possibility number one, if Oregon Department of Agriculture wins, that anyone milking even one cow or one goat, in theory, could be required to apply for a CAFO permit. You wouldn't even have to sell the milk. In fact, according to the rule interpretation, the egregious act of cleaning milking equipment or washing containers would make a micro dairy a CAFO. Let's say you're not into dairy at all. You don't care about raw milk. You don't care about having choices in your dairy items. It's still important because possibility number two, it's quite possible that people with any lactating livestock would need a CAFO permit. Sarah pointed out that the ODA's language is not specific enough to include or exclude species, joking that technically, as in Meet the Fockers, technically you could milk a cat. So what happens to our small beef producers, our small pork producers? In order to produce a protein product and not just fluid milk products, you need lactating animals to produce babies that require milk to be grown and raised. And Bo Davidson, but what if a farmer got pregnant? Would she need a CAFO permit too? Just an interesting thought. Again, whether you produce food or simply consume it, straight to choices, which Big Ag is trying to limit here. And perhaps, in my opinion, this is why we need lawyers. The good ones, they can help. The good ones can step in, get these notes. They can point out absurdities in the law. Okay. Now, possibility number three, would you need a CAFO permit for backyard chickens? Now, this is speculation on informed conversations and the ODA, own language, not to fearmonger, but to motivate. Read up on your own state's laws. Check it out. Okay. But Oregon defines CAFOs as concentrated feeding or holding of animals, poultry, not limited to horse, cattle, sheep, swine, feeding areas, dairy confinement areas, poultry, egg production facilities, where surface has been prepared with concrete, rock, or fibrous materials. Key phrase here is surface that has been prepared. So if your chickens, lambs, pigs, alpacas, even anything, ever walks on gravel or concrete or crosses over drainage rocks, man, according to them, you could be a CAFO. So what we're saying here is just a little bit goes a long way. And we're going to ask you, A, stay calm and get involved with things like this. And it's like, the whole thing started in Oregon because a big dairy griped that micro dairies were at an unfair economic advantage. It's in that white paper. Okay. Big dairy convinced Oregon to squash the competition. 3 guesses. Remember from our GMO hit, Big Ag is the new green. So dairy's argument was that tiny raw milk producers equal anti-environment. CAFO regulations were designed to mitigate the environmental effects of wastewater produced when you have hundreds or thousands of animals in confinement for a period of time, is what Bobby Taylor, an attorney, stated. Big dairy creates manure lagoons and can't get around following these expensive regulations, so instead it's deploying the environment as a PR tool to bully the competition. Why bully the competition when Big Dairy already has cornered the market on milk? Well, Big Dairy can't safely produce raw milk. Now, too much commingling and holding things. Now, we heard us talk about Raw Farm LLC, the largest producer, something like 80,000 gallons a week in California. It can be done, but it requires a lot of work. Either way, they're not going to do it. So what they're going to try to do is vilify. So anyway, they now tell Oregons that the raw milk they need to pay their environmental share. So again, expenses that a small farmer can't afford. 3 cows, no lagoons for 8 years, environment through regenerative, biodynamic, holistic, chemical-free farming. Following those rules will in fact make her less environmentally friendly. Now I'm going through a lot of stuff. She said she uses food-grade cleaning product, could pour cleaning water on my vegetable garden, and I do. But under these rules, she wouldn't be allowed to touch the ground. It wouldn't be allowed to touch the ground. It would need to go into a segregated tank from the septic. It says she also wouldn't be allowed to manage her compost pile that she spreads on her pastures and small vineyards. All manure would have to be measured, weighed, and stored separately. Okay, so here's what you got to do. You got to get involved, because guess what? Today it's there, tomorrow it's something else. And so these little stories like this that demonstrate the government overreach, demonstrate how regulations that were designed to protect one thing are being used to hurt and squash the small farmer. That's what it's for. So it's in time to get involved and ensure those policies and stand up to that, because there's strength in numbers. That was one person who got involved, who stood up for herself and has been able to affect change. But that's just the thing. That's 3 cows, folks, 3 cows. Little bitty micro thing. She can't afford $150,000 upgrades. Who could, other than a big corporation? So anyway, that's just an example of what we were talking about with government overreach and these broken bureaucratic agencies that have expanded beyond what their original intent was. They now exist. They now exist every day. They're just trying to self-propagate, to keep themselves a job. All right. Less government is the answer. I've always said that. I believe that wholeheartedly. Less government interference, less bureaucratic interference. But anyway, that's a wrap on that today for that subject. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Share what you got going on with that. I know I blew through that really fast. I had to. There was a lot there. So even if this would have been completely live instead of just a recorded, played live, I would have had to have done the same thing. Just when you get this much information going, get that much of a narrative and that much of a thought, you got to do it. I'm over on time. We're going to do it. Let's get some upcoming events. Third, of course, I'll be back tomorrow. If all goes well, I'll be back live. I'll check the work schedule and I'll know what's going on. But the plan is to be back live Thursday morning, 6 o'clock, right there, right here on our channel for the Farm2Table Direct Show Morning Edition. Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will be on the Suburban Sodbusters channel live. Monty Shrunky's invited us on. He's going to interview my brother Keith and I. So be sure and tune into that. March 21st, 22nd, we're like 72 days away from Okie Expo, Mays County Fairground, Prairie, Oklahoma. Tickets on sale now, $50 for a 2-day pass. They go fast. Get them while you can. Get your reservations made. And hopefully we'll see you there. We're going to be there in full effect at the Farm2Table Direct Show. I just found out about this one, the Shindig Ozark Living Expo, April 25th and 26th. And Jasper, Arkansas, at the Newton County Fair and Rodeo Grounds. So check that out if you're in the Arkansas area, the Ozarks, Southern Missouri, that type of thing. Go ahead and go for it. Homesteaders of America Conference, we keep bringing this up. It's in October in Front Royal, Virginia. You can go to Homesteaders of America and find out about that. Tickets are $50 for a 2-day pass. These things sell out lightning fast. So if you're going to go, if you think you're going to go, you better get your tickets now. So anyway, that's a wrap for today on the Farm2Table Direct Show Morning Edition. Thanks for joining in as we explore headlines and stories impacting our world and our future. Glad you were able to be in here. Hope you enjoy this. Thanks for all the support you've been giving us in these first early episodes. We hope you continue to earn that and you'll stay with us. We appreciate it very much. But if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channels on Facebook, YouTube, and X. It's the best way to stay connected and help grow the conversation about food, farming, and community, which is what we're all about here on the Farm2Table Direct Show. Please share. That's the only way we can get the message out. It helps, yes, our channel grow, and that's just so that we can reach more people. We can get that message further out. The more people are getting ears, we get people get involved. We can grow this community bigger and stronger. And we are the morning show of the homestead community. So be sure and like, share, and subscribe, and tell people about it if you enjoy it. Anyway, until next time, keep your roots deep, your vision growing. Good food starts with great people. Remember, we are stronger together. We text the community. And go out today, be a blessing to someone. And we will see you on the other side. Have a blessed day, everybody. And good.
No humans were harmed in the production of this podcast.